if that's okay, and we'll make it start.
Absolutely.
So, morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is about empowering employers through inclusive hiring. Today, we're going to hear from some of our employers who are guest speakers for us, employees, and we've also got some experts on the group chat here for you. We are going to be using the chat quite a lot. If you've got any questions throughout, Joe, who's from AKG, will be managing that. So please feel free to kind of use that chat throughout the webinar, ask any questions, but there will also be time at the end to make space for questions as well. If I can ask everyone at the moment just to make sure that you're on mute, and we'll get started. That's okay. So my name's Heidi Fish. I'm Operations Director for AKG Health. And I just wanted to very quickly, before I pass you on to more of the other experts, to kind of set the scene about inclusive employment and kind of share just a few facts. So inclusive employment isn't just about the right thing to do. It's also one of the smartest business decisions an organisation can make. And I think that what we'll all find is that that pool of people who aren't necessarily what we would class as inclusive is growing smaller. So we need to kind of think about how we kind of recruit people going forward. So if disabled people and those with long-term health conditions had equal opportunities to work, the UK economy could benefit by 63 billion annually. That's a huge untapped potential, I'm sure you'll agree. 28% of organisations with inclusive cultures retain staff more effectively. Lower turnover means lower recruitment and training costs, a more stable, experienced workforce. Diversity and inclusion aren't just about fairness, they're about performance. The research shows that companies with inclusive teams see significantly stronger financial results, and I was really surprised by some of these statistics. Consumers notice and reward inclusive practices. Almost all customers say they're more likely to buy from companies that are visibly inclusive, and I think that's kind of like, as people going in, we'll buy from those people that actually look after their people. And research from BITC, when organisations embed wellbeing and accessibility, absenteeism falls dramatically, meaning higher productivity and healthier teams. And finally, 1 in 5 working age adults in the UK has a disability or a long-term condition. That's not a small minority. It's a huge talent pool that I think you'll agree many employers are missing out on. So inclusive employment is about unlocking potential. It's for individuals, businesses and the wider economy. It's not just a social good, as we all see, that tick box exercise. It's a good strategic advantage. So that's all from me. I'm going to be passing over to Georgia and Ola, who are 2 of our AKG health coaches. They're going to explain what health coaching looks like in practice, how it helps employers and employees alike. So I'm going to pass over to you guys.
Thanks, Heidi.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Heidi. I'm not sure if Georgia can hear me and if she's ready.
Okay. Yep, I can hear you.
We'll just make a start with who AKG Health is. We're just going to introduce a bit about what we do at AKG Health. So we support people to take control of their health and well-being so that they can feel more confident, they can be a bit more independent, and to get them ready for work or learning. So whatever we do, whatever intervention that we put in place for people, the end goal is usually that they're closer to work, or they can stay in work and sustain their employability, or be able to go back to learning. So we really believe that health and employment go hand in hand. So our approach is all about helping people build that foundation that they need to be able to move forward. And how we work is that we offer flexible, person-centered support. So it's very much about what the person wants and what's important to the person. And this could be in whether in one-to-one or online or as a group. And we would also offer in-person sessions as well, where the person prefers to be seen face-to-face. Our work is holistic, so we look at the whole person, not just the main barrier or challenge that they're presenting with or that they've been referred for. And we also work closely with services like the NHS. So we would write GP letters, we would refer people to services within the NHS, within the local councils, within their community, as well as other employment providers, to make sure that people get the right support at the right time. And we support a really wide range of people. So It could be that they're dealing with long-term condition. It could be that they've got low confidence, or maybe they're just feeling stuck or unsure how to move forward. It might even be that they just need a bit of advocacy in terms of accessing healthcare. So what we do and the range of people we support is really wide. And yeah, we will try our best to make sure that it's tailored to that person and what's important to that person at that time. And I will pass you on to Georgia, who will tell us a bit more about what health and wellbeing coach is.
Thanks, Ola. So I suppose what health and wellbeing coaches do, in a nutshell, we help people take control of their health, physical and mental, on their terms. So that might mean setting realistic goals, like improving sleep, managing stress, and a lot of the time it's about building confidence. And the approach we take, it's not about telling people what to do, it's about working alongside them to help make changes that really matter, so that they're on board. For example, one client I work with started simply by opening their curtains in the morning, to build that sense of routine. And you can imagine how seeing that light can make you feel when you haven't done that for a long time. So that small step led to better sleep, more energy, and eventually they joined a walking group. And I think it's those small wins that build momentum, so that if you can achieve a small thing like that, you can achieve the next step too. So essentially it's about helping people create a plan that works for them. It's manageable. It puts them in the driver's seat when it comes to their health. They build confidence and the skills to manage their own well-being. And we support that lasting behaviour change with practical tools and encouragement as well. So we focus on what really matters to the individual. We know it's not a one size fits all. So afterwards, they then feel capable to progress personally and also professionally as well. So it's about empowering them, offering them the tools, the resources, the knowledge to live better and move forward with confidence.
Georgia and Ola, hi everybody. My name's Jo. I work with AKG. I'm really interested in what you ladies have to tell us about your role, and I've got some questions for you. But I think you've answered the first two about what a health and wellbeing coach does and the kind of changes that you've seen in people that you work with. But obviously we're here today to talk about inclusive recruitment. And how we can support employees to stay in roles and for jobs to be sustainable. So how can health coaching benefit employers and their workforce?
I think health coaching makes such a real difference, not just for individuals, but for employers too. So I think when people feel genuinely supported and acknowledged in their well-being, they're more likely to show up, they're more likely to engage and thrive whilst in work, both personally and professionally. It's about creating that healthier, more resilient workforce, which I think can benefit everyone.
Ola, you're on mute.
Sorry.
There's always a technical hitch. It's all good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think people are generally more productive when they feel well. So when someone's feeling physically and mentally healthy, they definitely would have more energy, more focus, more motivation, which would naturally be reflected in just how they work and the results that they produce at work. But also, we've also noticed that we see a lot of fewer sick days too. So one of the things that coaching does is it helps people to manage stress and burnout and avoid burnout. So we give those practical tools and help them understand the signs and what they can do to manage that. So people are less likely to need time off for mental or physical health reasons, because they're managing that stress and that burnout very well in the first instance.
Definitely. I think as well it boosts engagement. So when employees feel genuinely supported, acknowledged, they're more likely to be motivated. They want to work for a business that is kind of really investing in them, so that they feel as though they can invest in what they do as well.
Yeah, and it also helps to shape a more positive sort of workplace culture. So in a culture where health coaching or just coaching generally is part of the picture and the way that people at work are sort of relating, and people are more likely to engage in open conversations. You're more likely to see a lot of empathy because people would genuinely be interested in the well-being of, colleagues and everybody else, and just that sense of psychological safety. So they're not hiding or keeping away important health information that they should have told their employers in the first place. It also helps them build like emotional resilience and just keep that healthy balance, especially in roles where it's really demanding or there's a high turnover and that pressure is on. So it helps them to keep that balance as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And what would you say if there's an employer out there who's still unsure about the value of health coaching? What would be your response to them?
I think I'd say it isn't just nice to have like a well-being perk. It's actually a smart investment in your team. I believe health coaches are the bridge to kind of between that personal well-being and professional performance. It helps boost their performance. When people feel well, they work well. One client I think had a real struggle with fatigue and energy and overwhelm, and we were managing to kind of build a better sleep routine, better time management, and this meant that they actually planned in time for themselves, which allowed them to wind down, and then the next day they had that energy, they had that mental capacity, so that they weren't missing deadlines.
Yeah, but also we've talked earlier about how it would prevent sick days in the first instance, but it also tackles presenteeism where people just show up, but they're not actually functioning, they're not performing optimally. You don't really want someone to show up and then not be able to do the work that they're meant to be doing. So chronic stress is something that we will talk about, coping tools that would help them to get back to full productivity. So they are showing up and they're showing up well and ready to go and do the work that they need to do, not just showing up, but feeling really ill or poorly. But also it keeps the team together. It really helps to boost retention rate. We know that people are more likely to stay at a workplace where they feel supported. And one staff member was ready to quit due to stress. But when through coaching, they reconnected with their role and they were able to then stay in that role and continued. It also helps to align with goals as well. So whether your goal as an organization is to reduce absence or improve team dynamics or hitting KPIs, and coaching can be really useful in the support in the bigger picture of that. Okay.
I think that's a huge one, and I think they say that every £1 that's spent on mental health returns 5. So I think that's a 500% return, which is better than most business investments.
Mm-hmm. And I think just finally, I would just say that it also helps you understand your workforce as well. So where coaching is a part of the culture, you're not just telling people what they need to be doing. That, as I said earlier, it helps that open conversation. So they're more likely to tell you what they need, what areas of support they need, what things you could put in place, and that two-way communication helps to foster an optimal workplace for everyone. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Is there anything else, any final words that you'd like to share with us? If you haven't, that's fine. I think you've given loads of information. So
we've definitely seen a lot of changes in the people that we work with, and I think it shouldn't be overlooked. It's really important to have that support, and yeah, it definitely makes changes for people's lives.
Well done. Thank you so much. I think it's fair to say that both Georgia and Ola are pretty passionate about what they do. I think that's come across really well there, but really interesting insight to kind of understand a slightly different take on what probably EAP has looked like in the past, and this is a new version of that with that coaching. We're going to move on now. We're going to hear from one of our employers. Our employers are Lincolnshire Co-op. We thank them very much for joining us today. Erica and Matt are going to give us a bit of a whirlwind about their experience of inclusive recruitment. So I'll hand over to you guys. Please let me know when you want me to change the slide, Erica.
Okie doke, brilliant, thank you. I might be able to navigate forward myself, actually. I'll give it a go. But yeah, so thank you for inviting us today. So I am Erica, I'm the Careers Development Lead at Co-op, and I'm joined by Matt Brown, who's the Talent Acquisition Manager.
Morning.
And yeah, we're just going to give you a brief overview of what we do as an employer, how we introduce colleagues to our business. Feel free to stop us at any point to ask any questions. I'll just test this, see if I can navigate forward. Has that changed for everybody? You're on mute. Sorry, Heidi.
I don't think it's I've changed it now, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. It changed on our screen anyway. So yeah, thank you. A brief introduction to Lincolnshire Co-op. So inclusivity is weaved into our values as a business. So we're a long-standing cooperative, and we're all about working together, seeing people's individual strengths. We've just launched a new set of values, including our previous values, but to make them even wider within our business. Our overall recruitment process makes sure that colleagues feel welcome and supported when they join us. So we have an induction process, but even before then, we want to make sure people feel included from day one, really. Matt, I know Matt will go into a little bit more detail later on, but our recruitment process has been really carefully reviewed as well. So things like the language we use in our job adverts, the accessibility of the process, and offering training to our hiring managers as well. So as well as that, we're disability confident. We have a platinum Investors in People accreditation, and also we're an age-friendly employer. And I think one of the things that we're most proud of is that all of our applications are reviewed by a human, so we don't use AI. Our recruitment team sit and read every single application and make sure we're giving our attention to that person. So that's a brief intro. I'll move on. I'll hand over to Matt so he can explain a little bit more about the process.
Thank you, Erica, and morning, everybody. Yeah, I think it's certainly as a talent acquisition manager, I think one of the things that we wanted to work towards, as a cooperative, really, is an inclusive approach to hiring and making sure that we give that time and attention to everybody. I think it's not right in a day and age where bots are becoming quite prevalent, that people are getting sifted out. When actually they might have the skills, the qualities, the experience that we really need in our business, certainly when we're so lacking in skills. And some of those people might have those skills in abundance that we can hopefully use to develop the next generation. So it's really important that that our focus is on that diversity, on that inclusion, and making sure that we're bringing the right people in at the right place at the right time to help us to carry on being successful. We've been around for over 160 years, and our aim is to make sure that we're here for at least another 160 years. I probably won't see that, but you never know. There's lots of other generations, which will benefit from coming to work with us. And I think we've got some great examples. And I think, again, another really exciting thing about, sort of managing the recruitment process for the society is that we're not just based on a food business. We've got funerals, we've got travel, we've got pharmacy. We've got our own Gadsby's Bakery, which is based in Sutherland. That in particular, if anybody knows where our Gadsby's Bakery is located, it's quite a challenge for us. It's in between Newark and Mansfield. It sits in quite an affluent area. Don't tend to have the candidates, in that area that probably would necessarily look for a role in a production environment. However, it's a great place to work. And we were finding that we were quite challenged in trying to bring new colleagues in and new blood in to sort of see that there was progression opportunities. So by working with local partners, working with the local education such as Brackenhurst, we've been able to find a pipeline which has allowed us to bring new people in and keep that alive. We've also worked with our colleagues at the bakery as well to help them to understand the importance of inclusivity and belonging, and making sure that, you know, they're getting the best out of everybody that comes and works with us. One particular one that stands out in my mind is a gentleman called Colin. And if anybody here is an avid reader of the Times newspaper, there was a feature, I think, about a couple of years ago when we launched our agency to demonstrate that we are very conscious, about bringing people in of all ages. Now, Colin's 78, or was 78 at the time, and he just reached out to us. He wanted just a little part-time job to get him out of the house. And we recognised that he got so much to give us in terms of experience. We took him on. He was enjoying his little part-time job, and now he's 82. He's carrying on working. He's taken step-up responsibilities. He's a key holder, and it just goes to show. And he's probably more nimble than probably what I am. And he's probably able to stack shelves quicker than what I can. And it's that sort of thing that people can tend to overlook. And we're really keen here to make sure that those kinds of experience aren't. Okay, so we welcome colleagues from different cultural backgrounds, people changing careers later on in life as well, because again, we need to be mindful that there's a lot of skills and experiences that are transferable, and certainly some people, are able to flourish in roles which we probably didn't expect that they would be able to, but they're demonstrating every day, exactly what it is, to bring in that diversity. Okay. One colleague we've welcomed back recently, she left us because she felt that she would have probably a better experience elsewhere, and she's come back to us. And she's actually got cerebral palsy, and she's now working in one of our highest footfall stores, and she loves it, and the team love her, and to be honest with you, she's demonstrating once again exactly how her, what she's actually bringing to our business as well. Okay. And there's a number of success stories that we've also had from, colleagues starting as apprentices, and Erica was our big advocate for apprentices, and they've become senior managers. Our head of post office and travel started on what was the YTS scheme as an apprentice over 30 years ago, and he's now in control of the entire travel and post office division. And we've also got somebody who started as an apprentice who is now one of the most senior managers within our funeral business as well. So that development journey is something that we champion, again, from lots of different backgrounds. And again, it's important that these aren't just one-off stories. They are a part of what we are every single day and what we intend to grow as a business moving forward. Handing back to Erica.
Thank you. So the next slide is titled Benefits for the Business and Individuals. I'm not sure whether everybody's on that slide yet.
Yes, everyone's on that one.
There we go. So Lincolnshire Co-op, inclusive hiring means we're not just fishing in the same small pond. We're tapping into a much wider talent pool. So we find that working with people from disadvantaged groups are often very loyal. They are appreciative of the employment opportunity, and it's people that would maybe struggle to find employment with other employers. So we're more about the person. So, we might work with people that have been unemployed for a very long time due to either health conditions, low confidence, mental health issues, and what we try and do is match them up with the most appropriate job vacancy. So we'll support people before they apply to us as well, give them information where we can. It creates life-changing opportunities for individuals. So people that work for us have often worked for us for many, many years. So they come in at a certain position, maybe as a customer service assistant, and they're given that opportunity to work their way through the business on, lots of different career paths. The other thing is a lot of, we visit a lot of schools, colleges, etc. And some of the younger people think that Lincolnshire Co-op is just food stores. And actually there's so many opportunities other than working in a foodstuff. So for people with certain disabilities or certain conditions, maybe there's another area of our business where we can signpost them to, and we'll always do that where we can. From a business performance point of view, teams tend to be more engaged and collaborative when they've got lots of diversity within their teams. Because as you know, if everybody's the same, you know, you're always going to have the same outcome all the time. So that it gives us a real competitive advantage. So we're looking at growth year on year as well. So working with organisations such as AKG with work placements, that's allowed a number of people to understand who we are, what we do. You know, we offer work placements or temporary work placements for people that are unemployed, and again, many of those have health conditions, and it gives them a taste for work and gives them, even if they don't like necessarily enjoy the placement, they know what they don't like, so we can then support them to maybe find a role that is more suited to their strengths. So just to wrap it up, inclusive hiring, it's not a nice to have, it's more strategic than that, and so as a business we are fully supportive of hiring inclusively, and will continue to do that for many years.
So just to go on to the final slide, just run through 3 very quick takeaways for you. Okay, so first one is, hopefully, you know, what we've spoken about has really sort of inspired you. So please review your processes. You know, small changes to language, the accessibility that you offer, and the outreach that you actually make as teams, you know, can have a big impact in your communities that you serve and the people that want to work with you. Certainly invest in your culture as well. Work with your colleagues. You know, hiring inclusively is only the start. You need that environment where people feel that they can thrive, and it's your colleagues, your communities within the workplace that are going to help you to be able to do that. And finally, but thinking about the long term, so inclusive hiring, it's not just a tick box exercise, because I think some places do tend to treat it as such. It's about building stronger teams in those communities that I speak quite openly about. I think once you put all those 3 together in your review processes, and we start to appreciate, you know, what's having different diversity, the diverse nature of teams can actually bring. It's what builds a better business, it's what builds values, and again, supports local communities. So we don't see inclusivity as separate to our success. It's part of what drives us as a business to be more successful. Thank you very much, everyone.
Wow. Well, if that doesn't want to make you hire inclusively, then I don't know what will. Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. Love to hear about Colin. That was brilliant. I'm going to pass over to Jo now. She's going to talk us through the wider picture of social value and some practical steps employers can take. Over to you, Jo.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joanne Van. I'm the Social Impact Manager for AKG Employment. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to just talk about how social value and inclusive recruitment can marry together. But before I did that, I just thought I'd go through a few myths versus reality around social value, particularly for people who might not be. Oh, Heidi, go back. Sorry, thank you. You're too quick for me. So just a few myths versus reality around social value. Back in the day, social value was probably known or more familiar under the name CSR, corporate social responsibility, doing the right thing, volunteering in the community. Social value has really grown and evolved, and it's so much more than that. And the reality now includes jobs, training, equality. That there's so much more you can do with your supply chain, whether you're hiring local suppliers, and what your supply chain can do. So it's really grown over the last 10 years. An optional extra. Someone once said to me that social value was like health and safety back in the day. So apparently, 30, 40 years ago, health and safety, we just kind of got on with it, and we didn't have all the rules and regulations to keep us safe that we have today. Somebody once said to me, that's what social value is like. Maybe it was an optional extra, but now it's really important, and it's required in most public contracts. If you're bidding for work with local authorities in particular, there will be a social value question that could even ask you to create social value worth 10 or 20% of the contract. So it's really starting to be embedded in everyday business. How do you measure it? How do you measure volunteering? How do you measure supporting people who are disadvantaged into work? Actually, there are frameworks around, and we use the TOMS framework, which I'll come on to in a moment, which helps you to actually put proxy values on how much social value you can create. So there are actually some really strong ways of measuring what you're doing out in your communities and with your own employees. And obviously, is it expensive? There are so many everyday practices that can count for social value at no extra cost. So hopefully I'll be able to give you a quick insight into those. And is it only for big firms? Not at all. It potentially used to be seen at the big firms who could throw money out into the communities, but there's also the opportunities for SMEs to score highly. So if you're not already looking at social value within your business, please do take a look, because there's certainly a lot that you're probably already creating. Okay, so but how do we embed social value and inclusive recruitment? How do we marry them together? Inclusive recruitment is a really powerful way to generate social value, because what it does, it allows us to directly address inequalities in the labour market, and also to create opportunities for people who are often excluded for work. If we design recruitment processes that are open, fair and accessible, organisations can strengthen their workforce and help deliver measurable benefits to the communities in which they operate. So this approach really goes beyond filling vacancies, and it helps those disadvantaged groups gain access to jobs. It supports local people into sustainable careers and helps to build skills and confidence for those who might otherwise struggle. So this is all with the aim of helping them to enter or remain in employment. And if you're doing it right, inclusive recruitment can also ensure that organisations reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. And we've just heard our speakers from the co-op talk about teams that are diverse, and the engagement that they have and how they work together is much better than potentially those who are all the same. They also help to create more resilient and representative workplaces. What we can also do is align inclusive recruitment with the TOMS framework, which I mentioned just now. So TOMS stands for themes, outcomes and measures, and that framework can allow us to translate our inclusive recruitment activities into clear, reportable outcomes. So these could include jobs for people who are facing barriers, apprenticeships and training opportunities, pre-employment support and initiatives that improve workforce diversity. And this also allows organisations to demonstrate the tangible social value that they create through recruitment decisions. So it's both a business and a community benefit. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the TOMS measures? So the TOMS measures, as I've mentioned, they stand for themes, outcomes and measures, and it's a national framework that's used for reporting social value. Again, apologies if you all on the call live and breathe this as I do every day, but I thought just in case there was somebody that hadn't become familiar, it was worth just noting it and how it can link back to what you're doing in recruitment. What the TOMS measures does is it helps organisations track and compare and report their social value in a more transparent way. And I've already mentioned it's really widely used in public sector procurement, and some private sector organisations are picking it up. So if you have a look at the chart there, I've tried to show how it all relates together. So you have your theme, which in this case could be work. You have your outcome, which is on the TOMS measures, which is all around creating equal employment opportunities. And then the framework has a number of different measures. So you could see that here I've used a measure of the full-time jobs being created for long-term unemployed people. Now, what I haven't put on here is that then actually comes with a proxy value that is already predetermined by the social value portal and the government, who have put these proxy values together. So actually, off the top of my head, if you recruit somebody who is long-term unemployed, it's been calculated that you would generate around about £50,000 of social value if that person joins you and stays with you for 12 months, which is a phenomenal amount. But it looks at what's being created and what's being put back into the local community. And you would obviously evidence that by HR records, new hires, start dates, and the backgrounds of people. So there are a number of these themes, excuse me, a number of these themes. I've just picked on work because work is the theme that looks at inclusive recruitment and inclusive recruitment practices. And you can see we've got another outcome that they focus on, which is how do we provide skills and experience for good work? And your measure there is how many apprenticeships weeks employment you give your apprentices. So actually, if you take on somebody as an apprentice and you're able to upskill that person, that too is also generating social value for your business. And depending on how many weeks they stay in that apprenticeship, determines how much social value is created. And again, you look at your evidence. The final one I've put on there is around providing good work opportunities. That's another outcome that is in the TOMS framework. I've picked NT13, which is meaningful paid work placements. So if you are an organisation that's able to offer work placements, again, your social value is generated by the number of weeks of placements offered. And if you would like to find out more about this further, I generally recommend going onto the social value portal, where you can actually download the whole list of all the TOMS measures and have a look and see what social value you're already creating if you're not measuring it already. Okay. But how do we do this? That's the big question, isn't it? You know, it's all very well and good and saying, well, let's recruit people who are long-term unemployed, or let's recruit apprentices and let's upskill the local community. But it's not that easy, is it? So we really need to just look at how we can do it. And again, this aligns so much with some of the things that are already talked about. Make your access to opportunities wider, work with local charities or community groups. Recruitment can generate social value by deliberately reaching groups who are underrepresented or disadvantaged in the labour market. Your fair and inclusive recruitment processes. Embedding social value means making recruitment practices transparent and equitable. And by doing so, you're able to create opportunities for people who might not otherwise be able to go for interview or to be able to go for a position in your organisation. Social value is delivered when recruitment also builds skills and employability. So by offering apprentices work placements and training, partnering with schools and colleges, running pre-employment programmes, you're building the skills development again in the local community, creating another layer of social value. And your recruitment decisions support local communities and economies as well. So by prioritising local hiring, engaging people like AKG Employment as recruitment partners who work with disadvantaged groups can help you build that community and economic impact. And a really important one, I put it last, but it's not to be underestimated. It's not just about getting people into jobs, but it's about helping them succeed as well. So providing mentoring, buddying, coaching, looking at the retention of underrepresented group and making sure your workplace policies support those people that you're hiring. Flexible working and wellbeing support. We heard from Georgia and Ola right at the start about the wellbeing support and how important it is for that retention, particularly for some of these groups of people. That's so key to ensuring that they have a really healthy relationship with their employer and that they go into a job that's sustainable. So a quick link then to the social value and disability confidence scheme. Sorry, this one's a bit wordy. So social value really supports disability confidence by help turning those inclusive employment commitments into measurable outcomes. So when the disability confidence scheme sets out those practical actions for you to attract, recruit and retain people, those social value frameworks can help provide a way to evidence and report the impact. So they go hand in hand, absolutely. Guaranteed interviews, workplace adjustments, accessible training can all be captured as social values if you use those TOMS measures, but using things such as jobs and apprenticeships for people with disabilities. And you can show that you're demonstrating your compliance with disability confidence, as well as showing your commissioners, partners and communities the benefits that you've delivered by helping reduce inequality and strengthen that workforce diversity. So there we go. I've popped any questions. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the Q&A. I'll be monitoring that throughout the rest of the session, or pop them in the chat. I'll be looking at both. But I hope that's just given a little taste of how inclusive recruitment and social values sit together. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Jo. Thanks. Really bringing social value and disability confidence to life a little bit there, really, because I think it is one of those things that we see on paper and we don't necessarily put it you know, put it into real life, and you've done a really good job of explaining it there for us. So thank you very much for that. We're going to move on now to one of our Maximus colleagues, Clive, who will be sharing some insights on access to work. So I'm going to pass you over to Clive now. Are you there, Clive?
Seamless, Heidi, seamless. Hello, everybody. How are you? Okay,
Everyone's
fine.
good.
We're all good, Clive.
We're all good, yeah? Okay, fine. So what I wanted to talk about today is, sorry, I should say first, my name's Clive. I work for Maximus. We deliver something called the Access to Work Mental Health Support Service, or in other words, one of the best kept secrets out there. And this is about how we support people who are already in work to help them to stay in work, and if they're signed off sick from being at work, to help them to get back to that a good place. Ultimately, we try and take away a lot of the fear that employers see when they're faced with somebody who's saying, "Oh no, I'm living with a mental health concern or bipolar or whatever." So I just want to thank you very much. So the service is delivered by us on behalf of the Department of Work and Pensions. In a nutshell, what it offers is 9 months of confidential support to help employees, as I say, to stay in or return to work. What it isn't is a clinical service. It's not an emergency service, it is as well. What it actually is vocational coaching for that individual. And is led by a team of mental health support service coaches who, ironically, a lot of them are clinicians, a lot of them are therapists, but they're not allowed to use their skills in that manner, but they're advised as well. So it works. Oh, that's a weird looking screen, but never mind. Go again. Okay, so there are a couple of eligibility criteria for the scheme, and can't quite see them all on the left-hand side, but I'll just talk about them anyway. We are buzzing around. That's it. Let's just leave it there. It's fine. It's cool.
It's me. I'm trying to make it better for you, and I'm actually making it worse. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. It's fine. I'll talk it through. It's cool. I can share the slides again. So there are two eligibility criteria to join to get access to this. One is that they're in paid employment, and that employment can be permanent, part-time, 0-hour contract, paid internships, as long as there's a national insurance number to prove that that individual is in work. That's one of the eligibility criteria, which is completed. The other criteria is that they're living with a mental health concern, which doesn't have to be diagnosed. It doesn't have to be diagnosed. It could be just somebody who's lost their spark, for instance, for some unknown reason. But we can work with those individuals to help them be the best who they can in the workplace. But it must be affecting what they do in work. So you hear about stories where people have got a lot going on at home. They bring that stuff to work, and it's affecting what they do at work, or stuff at work is affecting them. We can help with that as well. Go on to the next slide, please, Heidi. Okay, referring into the system is really easy. There are 4 options there, and the first 3 are actually aimed at the individual. Telephone call, email, self-referral portal are all aimed at the individual. We do a lot of work directly with employers as well. I'm doing a huge amount of work with Skills for Care, with some leisure trusts as well, to spread the message to their membership. The referral will take a maximum of 5 minutes. That's a lie. If I'm typing slowly, it can take up to 8 minutes. But it's really high level information which is required to get people onto the scheme. And it's about, well, the next slide will tell you more about the customer journey, but it's really about making it easy for people to access it. There are no delays. I'll tell you more about that on the next screen. In fact, Heidi, can you go to the next screen, please? Thank you. As if by magic, there's the customer journey. So the overview of this slide is that we get to people at their time of need. We walk a journey with them, and then we lead them with resources which will help them forever and a day. So just to break that down a little bit, the referral comes over to us on our website or over the telephone. And I say it's literally a 5 to 8 minute form. That's some high level information, national insurance number. We do ask about the employer because we have to prove that we're working with people who are in work. So once that comes over to us, that national insurance number is checked by our commissioners, who are the DWP. And what happens is they will confirm that person is in paid employment. Those details then come back to us, and as long as that person engages with us, they will have their first telephone assessment within 2 weeks. We will try contacting them, telephone, email, whichever they prefer, but within 2 weeks they will have that first telephone assessment. The assessment talks about the expectations from the support service, how's it going to work, the fact that it is virtual, it is either video call or telephone call, whichever the person prefers, the fact that this service is open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening, Monday to Friday, the fact that they will have the same coach, unless somebody leaves, of course, they'll have the same coach along the whole journey. And what they'll talk about is just to get a brief synopsis of what's going on for that person and how they're going to start supporting them. The 9-month period then starts, and what you'll see on the screen, it says an employee has now a monthly appointment. That will be down to the coach and the employee who we're talking to. If the employee needs to be seen fortnightly or weekly, then the coach will facilitate that. It's really about what does the person need to help them to move forward. And what they'll be doing is looking at the challenges, looking at the interventions which they can introduce to combat those challenges as well. We're looking to get people back to back to independence, I suppose, so they don't have to rely on anybody else. So after 6 months, that employee then receives a report which summarises their progress. So all the good things which they've done, they've noted down what's really worked well for them. But then after 9 months, that's the end of the scheme, and the employee gets an exit report, which again has all the resources and all the strategies which they've worked on over that 9 months period. We're making sure that that person can cope and making sure that that person knows how to address certain situations. Next slide, please, Heidi. Thank you. I've spoken a little bit about coping strategies. Sorry, yes, I've just seen a question in the post, on the chat. It is completely fully funded by the DWP, so there's no payment required from the employer or the employee. Nobody at all, there's no payments involved. So I spoke about coping strategies, and I use myself as an example when it comes to this. I've lived with mental health concerns on and off. I think some of you might know that. One of the things which I really struggled with when I had my first episode was organising, planning and prioritising my day. Couldn't do it, could not do it. I had a full-on job, just like being hit with a tsunami of information. So to be able to speak to somebody about that and to strategise what you need to be doing to get through that day is absolutely vital. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, you have more condition-based coping strategies. So you talk about relaxation for fatigue management. Again, I had a full-on job. I had lots going on at home. I would come home and wouldn't relax, wouldn't switch off. I wouldn't sleep well at night. So I would then go into work the next morning, and as well as having the ABC of the day before, I'd have the XYZ of that day as well. So the weight just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So I wasn't getting a break. Be able to speak to somebody again about how you relax, how you switch off, absolutely vitally needed. And the other one on there is about managing treatment medication. I was prescribed with fluoxetine. I was first diagnosed, and it just left me drowsy. So I plucked up the courage to be able to speak to the GP and said, this is leaving me tired. So I was able to get onto sertraline, which works a lot better. But having somebody in your corner to help you to talk that through and understand, firstly, are you taking the medication correctly? Is it working for you? And then being able to say to the doctor, this isn't working for me, can we do something else? So this is just literally scratching the surface of some of the coping strategies. They are myriads. There's loads and loads of them which we can look at, and we do look at as well. I'm not sure the next slide will work, but we'll try it. Does that play, Heidi?
That playing?
And it's that last line, it feels really nice to be happy again, which is all encompassing, because we do a lot of work, we do a lot of fantastic work. We also do a lot of supporting of individuals who aren't as fortunate as us. And if you're not happy in that workplace, it's a horrible place to be. And I've seen, even in this industry, how, not being able to hit targets or whatever has really impacted on people's mental health. So this service is there to help anybody who's in paid employment to be the best they can, to be happy in the workplace. And we also do a lot of work, as I said, with employers, and we do health and safety webinars, we do lunch and nap sessions, we do a whole range of things to embed the service. That's my job. I go around all day long speaking to lots of different people, as you can probably tell. But yeah, I that's my details on the page. I realise I've got 10 minutes, so I've probably gone over already. So please, if you've got any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Clive. And we wouldn't expect anything else from you from going over time. But thank you so much for sharing your own personal lived experience as well. So that kind of, again, brings it to life for people. So much appreciated. Thank you for joining us. We're going to move on next to Kirsty, who's one of our team members who's lived experience of disability in employment. Kirsty, thank you for being willing to share your story. I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Heidi. Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Kirsty, the health team facilitator for AKG Health. I've been with the organisation for coming up to 3 years now, and I do consider myself to be both disabled and have long-term health conditions. I know there can be some confusion in the differentiations, but I do consider myself to be a disabled person and have disability while living with longer term conditions as well. I've got several health conditions, but the main conditions for me that create the most challenges in day-to-day life are Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic connective tissue disorder that affects every single part of the body, the muscles, joints, the heart, the eyes, the stomach, pretty much everywhere where there's connective tissue, there can be a problem in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I've also got fibromyalgia. That's quite a common condition. We do see that a lot, so that involves a lot of pain and discomfort. And then finally, I have a 2 centimetre brain cyst that sits in the lower back part of the brain next to the spinal cord, which can cause many symptoms. There's a lot of crossovers with the conditions that I have, so it's very hard to pinpoint what exactly is causing what set of symptoms. But the most challenging symptoms that I experience are things like pain, muscle soreness, exhaustion, joint subluxations, and sometimes dislocations. Cervical instability, issues with temperature control, like the nervous system can be impacted quite severely. And with the brain cyst can come symptoms like balance and coordination issues, hearing loss and swallowing difficulties. So yeah, those are the sort of the main challenging symptoms. And with regards to work, I work 3 days a week remotely. So it allows me to manage those symptoms a little bit better. I can attend medical appointments. I have quite a lot of medical appointments that I have to go to, so I'm able to mostly juggle those outside of work. But AKG for me has definitely shown themselves as an inclusive employer, because I'm in constant conversation with Julia, my line manager, and also Heidi about the conditions, because they're very dynamic in nature. So 1 week I may be able to manage something, but the next week certain symptoms could creep in, which mean certain roles and responsibilities I might have more difficulty to fulfill those. So I have got good open communication, and in terms of more tangible, reasonable adjustments that have been made for me, Heidi's always made me aware of what resources are available to me, not only by having open and honest conversations with herself about what I need, but also things like the EAP, OT assessments. So I recently had an OT assessment, which led to me being able to, I was provided with a comfortable office, very supportive office chair because of all the instability that I face with the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So that's helped a lot with being able to manage posture, manage pain, making sure that I'm very aware of how the spine and the neck are all aligned. Ergonomic keyboard, a special mouse. So that's all helped in terms of day-to-day equipment. But I think one of the most important things for me is the expectation around travel. I mean, luckily for me, I work remotely, so that travel is taken away. But when we do have away days where we all go off to Milton Keynes, you know, Heidi is very accommodating with me. I have conversations where I'm not expected to attend these events based on how my health presents itself, the symptoms that present, but I do have conversations right up until the day to make sure if I'm not able to attend, you know, I explain, and Heidi's always very understanding about that. So it's about managing conversations, expectations, keeping people up to date on what symptoms I'm experiencing and what challenges that's creating. And, you know, I think the balance that I've got in life, you know, I've lived with my conditions for a long time, but people who are perhaps recently diagnosed or recently experiencing disability or long-term health conditions, it's very important for them to feel they can have that open communication, so that what the work and personal life can be curated to such an extent that you feel comfortable and you feel happy and you're able to give your all to the job, so you're effective and efficient. And just going back to some of the earlier slides on the statistics and things that Ola and Georgia touched upon, you know, based on how I manage my personal life, but also how I've had the accommodations that have been made for me and the way that I work those 3 days a week. My sickness, I think I've had like 5 or 6 days off in like around 3 years. So with the conditions and with the medical appointments, you would expect an employer would perhaps expect me to be taking a lot of time off work. But like I said, if you've got the right support and you're managing your life as best you can with the right support, you know, you can be really productive, really effective, and manage sickness and absence really well. So yeah, like AKG has just been really good for me, and I'm always in conversation about what's going on for me. So I think communication is the key, and for employers not having that prejudice, not expecting absence and difficulty because of health concerns or conditions.
Thank you, Kirsty. I think it's really important to remember that a lot of people think employing someone with a health condition or with a disability is going to cost an employer a lot of money. Actually, you know, the cost is minimal. It's just about being able to demonstrate that flexibility. And we've been able to do that with Kirsty, you know, and she still managed to carry out her role without any hindrance. So it's been a really good experience both ways. So thank you, Kirsty, for sharing your story. We're going to move on now to another employer, get another employer's perspective. We're going to move on to Dave Jury from PGL Travel, who's going to talk to us a little bit about inclusive hiring and how the outdoors supports this. So I'm going to pass over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Can I just check everyone can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm aware I've just got 10 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep things brief. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So what I want to do over the next 10 minutes is to introduce PGL. For those of you who are not aware of what we do as a business, I'm going to talk about our job roles and how we've incorporated inclusive hiring into that. I'm also going to touch on a couple of areas around autism and neurodivergence and disability, with some examples of those, and also give you some examples of the changes that we've made to how we work, and also talk about some of the challenges that we still face going forward. So, a bit about me. I've been working for PGL's resourcing team for 17 years now. I do have a background in the outdoor activity industry. I'm part of a talent acquisition team, which is although talent acquisition is the name, we're actually more focused on building recruitment partnerships. So job centres, restart providers, colleges, universities, gap year organisations, charities. And at the moment, we have a big focus on equity, diversity and inclusivity, as well as attending job fairs. For myself, I'm a husband, a dad, a climber and a community radio volunteer. PGL, for those of you who are not aware of what we do, we started in 1957 and we have 16 children's residential activity centres across the UK. We welcome school groups in school term time and we have kids and families for activity holidays and educational courses in the holidays times as well. We're the UK's largest educational provider of outdoor learning. As well as the centres in the UK, which I'm going to show you in a moment, we also have centres in France and Australia as well. Can we have the next slide, please? So PGL has 16 sites across the UK, ranging from the South Coast and the Isle of Wight up through the home counties and up through the Midlands, the north of England, and one in Scotland as well. Our sites tend to be in rural areas, out in the countryside where we've got lots of space for the kids to run around and do climbing, canoeing, archery, and all kinds of outdoor sports they can't do in school. Now that does bring us some general recruitment challenges because on the whole, we're not very close to centres of population. Most of our staff come and live and work on the centre. They take up accommodation on site, but we also have local staff who travel in and out each day. Now, the four main job roles that we have are the children's activity instructor, where we train people to supervise activity sessions, all the outdoor sports, climbing, canoeing, and so on. We also have catering staff because we provide breakfast, lunch and dinner when the kids are staying with us. So we have a catering team in what is basically a school dinners canteen. We also have housekeeping assistants who clean the guest bedrooms and make sure the rooms are clean, tidy and have fresh bed linen for when the kids move in. And we have shops and bars on site, so we have retailer staff as well. Now, these jobs tend to be quite active. You're on your feet a lot. I spoke to someone recently who joined us through the Newcastle United Foundation, and he's about the same size as me. He's about 5'10", and he told me that he'd lost 4 stone in his first season just because he's walking around so much. So, you know, that's an amazing drop from 17 to 13 stone. So very positive impact on his fitness. He's getting lots of steps in every day. Okay, we have the next slide, please. I want to talk about our core values. These are really important to us. We talk about them in all the recruitment we're doing. And in fact, everybody's ID tag has them on the back as a reminder. And I just want to take a moment to share these with you. So we recognize that while people may come from a whole range of different backgrounds, these are things that are important to us when we're hiring and also when we're doing our jobs. So teamwork, it's really important that we work together as a team. It's important we have fun. The kids who come to our centres are on the best weeks of their lives and we want the staff to enjoy themselves as well. It's also important that we do everything to the best of our ability and have a high quality experience. So high quality food, high quality accommodation, high quality activities. In the bottom line, inclusivity and respect kind of go hand in hand. We tell people they're going to be working with guests and with staff who may come from very different backgrounds to them. And it's important that we welcome them, excuse me, and recognise that everyone has something to offer, whether they're young, old, have disabilities or health conditions, come from different religions, different ethnic minorities. That inclusivity is important. And going hand in hand with that is the last one, respect. It's important that we respect people from different backgrounds and different life experiences. And then the last value, safety, really important, is that we have safety in everything we do. So these core values, they're on the back of our ID tags and they're super important. Next slide, lovely, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to talk now about a couple of specific areas of inclusive hiring. I'll just give you the background and what we've done to address that. Now, we realized that we had some candidates who were applying for us who weren't having a great experience getting through our process of interviews, which we do over Microsoft Teams. If someone's autistic, then this kind of experience of having a stranger pop up on screen to do an interview and having to hold eye contact with someone is really tough for someone who's neurodivergent or autistic. And actually, we're assessing them on the basis of a Teams interview for a very practical job. So that brings its challenges. The number of people we have to do, there are 2,000 staff every year, we have to do interviews this way. It's the only practical way. So just to set it in context, this is from a study called Neurodiversity in the Outdoors. And in the UK population in general, there's 3 to 4% of people have ADHD. Outdoor industry employees, it's over 21%. And for people with autism, it's 1 to 2% in the general population, and it's getting on for 20% in our industry. Our industry is very practical and hands-on, it's problem solving, and that's probably why it tends to attract people with these skills. I think it's important to look at these as different skills rather than maybe a disability or a challenge. So the Department for Work and Pensions encouraged us to get in touch with a charity called Ambitious About Autism. They've trained our interviewers, and we've now rolled out training to our staff on centres and to managers who support staff who may have neurodivergency. So where we're at now is a neurodiverse applicant applying for a job can request a trained interviewer who's going to be supportive to them for that video interview over Teams. Hopefully that makes for a better experience in the interview process. And for when people go on to work, then neurodivergence awareness training is being rolled out to operational managers across all our sites so that they can help support and understand how to get the best from their staff. Now, the next slide, please. Okay, so next, I want to talk about a couple of schemes that we've been involved with. Firstly, Disability Confident. You've heard it mentioned before, I'm sure you will again. This is a really positive scheme for us, and it helps to send out a very clear message that we're open to what people can do rather than getting hung up on what people can't do. We make sure that this certificate is on display at all our centres, and it's on our recruitment leaflets and our website. So we're sending out a clear message that we're very positive about people with disabilities. One of the things that you've probably heard before is that it's not just about hiring people, it's also about the staff you've got may develop long-term health conditions or disabilities while they're with you. And if you're switched on to inclusive hiring and that's part of your corporate culture, that will be with you, and you will retain people better as maybe they develop hearing loss, maybe develop disability to get older, or go through other life challenges, which could be things like menopause, grief and bereavement, and so on. These things will happen to most people as they go through life. So, Disability Confident, fantastic scheme. I'd encourage people to get involved with that. Also, we've taken on the sunflower lanyard, and we have our own PGL branded version of that people can wear if they choose to hold their ID tag when they're working. Now, one of the things that's really important to us is this sends out a very clear message to other staff and to our guests on centre that the member of staff they're dealing with has a hidden disability. It's also really positive for sending out a clear message that that people with hidden disabilities are perfectly capable of doing these jobs. I've met an activity instructor who was, I suppose some people would say, high functioning autistic. Initially wasn't getting too much support from their manager because their manager hadn't been trained, didn't understand it. That's now been rectified. But by having the sunflower lanyard, when that instructor is working with a group of children from a school, that those kids can see that their instructor may have has a hidden disability, and that's a really positive role model message that you can do it. There's a big thing about you can't be what you can't see. If you never see an instructor with a disability, you assume that if you have a disability, that's not a job you could ever do. And in the same way that we want to make our jobs diverse and open, it's important to do this. There's a couple of schemes that are not on the slide here that I also mentioned. We're signatories to the Care Leavers Covenant, and we also work with Restless for the over 50s. And in fact, yesterday I was at a job centre in Swindon for an over 50s job fair. So it's about looking in all these different areas of the labour market to maximise things. So what changes have we made in terms of inclusive hiring? So our application form now asks what adjustments people would like to be made to the recruitment process, maybe their interview, or to the job role that they may need. So if someone says, I want to do this job, but I don't want to do the bit that's facing loads of people, I just want to work out the back, we can do that. Or do they want part-time? Also, do they work? What do we need to work around the school run if people are lone parents? So it's giving people the option to say what they would like to do rather than just going, you've got to do this or you're out. We've also introduced neurodivergent trained interviewers to give people a better experience and to make sure that the most appropriate people who are suitable for the roles get through and get offered jobs. We can also offer workplace visits prior to hiring, and we offer this generally, but specifically for neurodivergent candidates, so they can come and see the workplace, understand who they're going to be working with, see the environment, and make sure it's suitable for them. And that often leads then to some job carving discussions about, this area is a bit noisy for me, that area is quieter, could I work out the back rather than out front? And we've been able to adapt and job carve, which is the next point, having a look at the job duties you have on your job description. And if someone says, well, I can do 4 out of 5 of those, can you work with that? Probably. There may be other people who can do a bit more of that one, and between it, you can balance things out. Flexibility with working hours, whether it's part-time work, whether that's shorter days or fewer days in a week, working around public transport for people who have to come on public transport, or working around the school run for parents. So keeping an open mind to those. And then we've trained managers to support neurodivergent or disabled staff, and we've operated with the Sunflower Lanyard scheme. So those are the things we have done. We're still facing some challenges and we're still working on these. So getting operational managers and heads of department on board with some of these topics. There's a lot of people out there. We have a lot of informing, educating and training to do to really win over hearts and minds and convert people to the way of thinking that we've been hearing about today. Excuse me. And I think it's important to train people and to share best practice and success stories so that people see it as a positive thing rather than something that's just more work. Job carving, keep an open mind, be adaptable, but bear in mind you can't make every person fit every job. On the final slide, you will see a picture of some of our staff, and there's a wheelchair user in there. For many of our job roles, it's not going to be practical for a wheelchair user to do the jobs we do. It's outdoors, it's walking over bumpy, or, traveling over bumpy paths. You might have to climb up something to rescue a stuck child on a climbing wall. That's probably not going to work for a wheelchair user. So it is okay to say that something won't work, but keep an open mind to see what you can do. And other challenges general, which are the sort of things I whinge about. So can you just go back one, please, Heidi? Thank you. We still have quite a bureaucratic application process because it's working around kids. Everybody has to go through an enhanced DBS check and 2, probably 3 references because they're working around kids. That's quite a lot of bureaucracy. If you add on top of that, for people with health issues, they have to go through an occupational health provider assessment process, and that can take time and that can slow down or delay job starts. So this year we're building a bit more time in. Okay. Final slide, please. Thank you. So lastly, I hope this has been useful. If anyone has any questions, my email is on the screen. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to get in touch. Happy to chat about anything. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much. Again, more inspirational kind of advice and guidance, and also some of the things that we could probably really step up to be doing as well as employers. So thank you so much, Dave, for joining us. I'm going to be handing over now to another one of our employers, and to get another perspective, we're going to hand over to Sam Oliver from Starglaze. Sam's going to give us an honest insight into why hiring people with health conditions is good for business, but also kind of highlight some of the challenges as well. So over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Heidi. So basically, I'm going to talk you through our journey a bit. There's a bit about me on the screen and what I do for Starglaze. Starglaze itself, we are a window manufacturer. So we have 3 factories and a head office based in Lincoln. The factories themselves, we obviously make glass, PVC and aluminium windows, and we employ 177 people. Our journey with inclusivity and neurodiversity started with a current employee who was struggling in performance reviews and having a lot of issues with his team. About 18 months into his journey with us, he disclosed that he was being diagnosed with autism, currently seeing his doctor. So that kind of shed a bit of light on the difficulties we were experiencing with him, where it was going wrong. After that, we decided to engage with a company called Positive Psychology Guild, and we got our Neurodiversity Inclusivity Confidence Award through them. That involved going through some training. So we trained all of our heads of department to understand neurodiversity and what it means. Lots of work in there about perspectives and actually just understanding people and their differences. We then did an impact assessment as a company in all areas of the business to understand how people with different neurodivergent conditions may be impacted. One of the key things for us, because we're also on the IIP journey, we're IIP Gold and currently having our Platinum assessment. So we've learned through that understanding our people and communication is a huge thing. Everybody's different. I mean, anyone in here who's walked into a meeting with a certain person that has a reputation, or they're going to react to something in a certain way, or you've shared something with a team member and when they've come back with what they've done, it's different to what you expected. It all comes down to how we communicate, and it all comes down to understanding the people that you're dealing with in front of you. So we put a lot of work into that and actually understood that a lot of reasonable adjustments that you might put into place for someone that's neurodivergent are actually just best practice for everybody. Who doesn't want clear communication? Who doesn't want commitment dates and deadlines and understanding? It just makes us all better. So our impact assessment, we worked with everybody to have their input into what they think might impact people. And then we offered some training off the back of it from everybody to understand things from a different perspective, to learn that process of looking at things differently to how you see it, because everybody sees things differently. It works most of the time, but we have had experiences where it doesn't work. The guy that started our journey, he no longer works for us. We got to a point where actually we accommodated him with a lot of reasonable adjustments, but the factory is loud, it's noisy, and I can't change that. The work is busy. We have to be very efficient. We're a production company, so on a line there's a lot of expectation on what you can achieve. We moved him in different jobs. We provided him with different clocks because that could help him. We give him different instructions. We didn't give him things in writing to read there, and then we allowed him time to take things home. But ultimately, once we'd gone through that process with him, there was not really a lot more that we could do. And he himself kind of recognised that this was not the job for him, and it's okay not to be a right fit. You can't, ultimately we're a business. We do what we do as a business. There's only so much that we can do to change things before we have to kind of go, look, this is just not going to fit. One of the things that we introduced as a positive story, so in our interview process for inclusive hiring, we do an assessment centre. People have to read labels to be able to make the product. So we have an assessment centre that has kind of a version of that label and ask some questions about it so that people can see what their role in the factory especially might involve. I had a guy who spoke to me to say that he was dyslexic and he had autism, and he didn't think that he could read the label on his own. So could we help him? So we took him to a separate room so that we could sit and talk through him what his difficulties were. And at the end of the 10-minute session of doing the assessment, he went, do you know what, this is not going to work for me. I'm always going to be stressed because I can't deal with reading this label, and there's not always going to be someone that can help me. We were very positive. He was very positive about us, but recognised very early on then that actually this wasn't for him and could have turned into a really negative experience, because he was a really great guy, he interviewed really well. We probably would have given him the job, but it probably would have affected him in his concept of work and what that looks like for him. So we pride ourselves now on being able to kind of support people early. We do practical assessments. We take them onto the shop floor so they can experience it in reality as part of the interview process, rather than give them a job and then find that later down the line that's not for them. I think understanding what people's difficulties are is a really key thing. People sort of hear the word autism or hear the word dyslexia and assume that they know what someone's going to need. For me, the really important thing is that we're all individuals. Everybody is individual, and actually, even if you're autistic, if you have ADHD, if you're dyslexic, everybody looks different within that spectrum as well. So someone who's autistic doesn't always struggle to deal with people. Someone who's autistic doesn't always want to do repetitive tasks, but that is a characteristic of autism, and you have to understand the individual in front of you. We're all beautifully unique, and understanding people instead of making assumptions is a huge part of being able to work inclusively with everybody, and to support people with neurodivergent conditions. Some of the positives for me, hiring neurodivergent people especially, we are a production environment. So for people with autism that do enjoy a repetitive task, so some people can't stand that. And for some people that becomes really mundane and really boring part of the job. I've got a couple of autistic guys who actually love the repetition and it suits them down to a T. So the fact that they can manage the noisy environment, the fact that they can manage the busyness around them means that the task that they're actually on, it's ideal for them, and they are probably our most productive people on the line because of the fact that they've got that repetition of knowing what they've got to do, when they've got to do it, how many they've got to do, and can just crack on and do it. I also think that it's great from a perspective of problem solving and continuous improvement. We work with something called Rebel Ideas meetings. We get people in a room, so our receptionist might have a say in what we change in our production environment, because we recognise that everybody has a different perspective and everybody has a different point of view or opinion about how you can do something. And actually, what better than to get all those people in a room and hear a variety of different options on how we improve something or how we fix a problem. Having neurodivergent and different people from different backgrounds in those meetings just gives you a far broader perspective and many, many more ideas to work from, to be able to improve your workplace environment. So I think there's lots of things that are really good about having that inclusive hiring. I think it's about recognizing differences early, understanding those differences for that individual, not just from a label or an assumption that you've got, and then making sure that you can put the adjustments in place that are needed to support that person. The earlier you do that, the more positive it is for everybody. And even if that is that you recognise the adjustments are not possible, again, the earlier that happens, the more positive it is for everybody involved. I don't think employers should be scared to admit that you can't accommodate everybody all the time. It's part of working life. Not everybody is a right fit for your company. And actually, as long as you've got some really good practices in place that identify what people need early on, you can still be really positive at an employer and just go, you need to look for something that's a little bit different that works around those. And the people that you then take on for you are much more likely to be retained, much more likely to be successful. And a lot of what you guys have talked about in terms of well-being and health and happiness in work, understanding your people early on, then the positive journey is very more likely to happen. That's it from me.
Sam, amazing. And one of the things that really stood out to me when I spoke to you before is about, it's okay to say that it's not okay. We don't have to accommodate every single person in every single role, and that's fine. And it's having the courage to say that, because I think we are kind of in a world now where we're not doing that as much. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to pass on to Lisa now, because we're going to try and smash through just a couple of things about disability confidence before we finish in just a few minutes time. So over to you, Lisa.
Thank you. Listen, so many great stories. So I'm gonna kind of slim down my slides. But I think one point to just note out is that when we look at disability confidence and inclusive hiring, it's not a badge, but it's actions that we take every single day as employers. And I think that's a really key point to take away from today. They don't have to be big things. There's lots of small things employers can do, providers can do, to make sure that the working environment is much more inclusive when it comes to hiring people with additional health needs or disabilities. So what I want to do is just get a little bit of interaction from those of you on the call. Very aware we've talked at you a lot today. So get your phone out, scan the QR code. And what I want you to do is a little bit of a vote. What do you believe is the biggest benefit of inclusive hiring? It'd be really good to hear your thoughts. Sorry, people. Wow. Well, really interesting. Look, the thing is, inclusive hiring actually is every single thing on the screen. And I think that's the kind of key point to take away. Everyone goes to that retention piece because they think that inclusive hiring only affects the individual, but actually inclusive hiring affects the ripples of the whole business. And it's kind of unable to really measure the exact impact of inclusive hiring. But I know that Heidi had a few stats at the beginning of the call, but it's just good to remember that actually it affects all ripples of the business, not just that individual. Obviously, we want to prioritize that individual, but it is far reaching. So what I'm also going to do is there's a few things on the screen and we'll send them out when the slide deck comes out, but it's just, everyone always asks me, Lisa, that always sounds really good about how we do things, but what are the practical small things we can do on a daily basis to do that? So there's some on the screen and they will come out to you all. If you're an employer, take these and action these. If you're a provider, take these ideas and speak to your employers about them and try and help them see how they can action them really easily. And if you're an individual that has got an additional challenge in terms of coming to health or around your disability, speak to your employers about these things because they should be able to do them relatively easy. So one last piece of interaction and then it's over to Heidi to wrap us up. So what challenges do you face when implementing inclusive hiring practices in the workplace? So if you're an employer, you can tell us firsthand what you're facing. If you're a provider, you can think about what some of your employers are telling you when you're trying to broker conversations around inclusive hiring. So once again, get your QR codes up and get going. That would be great. I can see lots of you typing. Absolutely, job carving. People feel that job carving means absolutely ripping up a job description and starting again. It doesn't. It just means being person-centered of the person that you're trying to carve that job up for. And there's something AKG can help. Struggling with resources, absolutely. So again, back to that message. Being inclusive when hiring doesn't have to be big and shiny. It's small interactions and actions you can do every single day to help support individuals. We will collate all of these and we will also send them through. Okay, very aware that we're tight on time. So Heidi, back over to you to wrap up.
I'm still on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much for everybody that has been guest speaker, but also for everybody that's attended. I think it's fair to say we've given a really good, wide perspective on inclusive employment from employers themselves, but also to people who are part of that workforce as well, from Kirsty, and also what's available, what support is available for you as employers, and even just as people who maybe need additional support. There's lots of things out there. Nobody needs to really struggle in a workplace now. It's okay to say no, I think is one of the other things that we've learned from today. But I think that's it for today. I'm going to wrap up. We're on 11:29. I'm going to give you all a minute of your life back. We will be sending out, the recording will be going out into the ethos, hopefully via YouTube, and we'll be sending those out. If anybody would like to connect with any of the guest speakers or have any specific questions for them, please in the first instance direct them to me and I will make those introductions. I've already confirmed that they are happy for me to do so. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.